Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is After Wine School. I'm Keith Wallace with, I know this, Alana Zervin. Oh, and so today what we're talking about, what I insist that we talk about is Know Your Palate, part two. We did talk about this earlier in the season, talking about smell. So now we're going to talk about taste.
Exactly. Yeah. This is going to be a nice little primer on the second part of tasting, which is what happens on your palate.
That's exactly right.
So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to mention, a lot of students conflate what they smell with what they taste. So when we talk about what we perceive on our tongue, those are flavors and taste sensations. People often get this wrong, and it's completely understandable because olfaction plays a huge role in what we experience when we taste wine. But you want to make sure when you're talking about what you are smelling, those are aromas. But when you're talking about what you sense on your palate, those are flavors. So you smell aromas, you taste flavors, and you experience taste sensations. So those are the physical things that you feel on your tongue, and that's going to be our focus today.
Oh, my tongue is feeling a lot of things right now.
Is it?
It is.
I think it usually does.
Yeah, it does.
Sadness, ennui.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Mine actually has ennui, bitterness, but like emotional bitterness.
Existential crisis.
All the
right at the
time.
back.
Anxiety. Anxiety is the one that's really back there, you know.
Oh my God, I want a trauma tongue map.
Yes, I want a trauma tongue map. I really do. Oh my God.
Feeling this? Drink this.
That would be the best thing to have, like on first dates. You know, just like, can I look at your tongue for just a minute and just look up to the map and like, oh no, never mind. Check, please. This is awesome. Okay, let's just talk about sweetness first. Sweetness, right? We all know that, right? We all love sugary sweetness. It's delicious. Now, however, it doesn't just come from sugar, actually. It's coming from ripe fruit. But usually in wine, it's actually been fermented into alcohol. And this should not be surprising to anybody, but alcohol tastes sweet to us. You know, ethanol is derived from sugar. So if I ever want, like something that tastes sweet, I drink whiskey. It's one of the greatest things because it tastes sweet. It's adult dessert. Now, along with this, our brains also fool us to think something's sweet when we're tasting something else. It's also in whiskey. Do you know what that is?
No.
Oak.
Oh.
Yes, you knew what it was. You just pretended. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm still on the trauma tongue map.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I know.
Give me a minute.
Oh, yeah. So because oak, you extract flavors that are very similar to cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla. And baking spices. So in the Western world, we perceive these as sweetness. And so therefore, whenever you have, like, say, a whiskey, it's that high alcohol, which seems like it's sweet. But then when you have that cinnamon and nutmeg, that also tastes sweet. So it's kind of like you're drinking an apple pie. This also happens with wine when we age it in oak. So this is one of those things that we're talking about the difference between perceived sugar and real sugar. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that of all these flavors, the only one you can really taste that's really sweet is on your tongue, right? So actual sugar you can taste on your tongue, and everything else comes from your olfactory system. So if you want to actually know what's the difference between sweet and perceived sweetness, taste something that you think is sweet and close your nose. Because if you close your nose, that prevents your olfactory system from working. It's like the off switch. And therefore, all of a sudden, everything goes away. And which is kind of funny, because if you ever see my students, like doing this, like, and they'll be in class and they'll hold their nose and taste something. It looks like the entire class is like drinking something that smells like farts. But no, they're just trying to see if it's sweet or not. So yeah, that's just to add another layer of trauma to this.
Yeah, you're not
episode.
getting me I'm not sidetracked. I'm going to stay on task.
Okay. All right.
So if you want to experience what sweetness is in wine, I would heartily recommend you do a little at-home tasting. Grab yourself a Chablis, a Riesling that is off dry. So maybe it'll say off dry on the label, or you can check the alcohol content. If it's around 10% or less, it's definitely going to have some residual sugar. And then grab yourself a Zinfandel or a Petite Syrah from Sonoma or Lodi. and check the alcohol content. Make sure it's over 15%. Line those three up. You want the Riesling first, then the Chablis, then the Zinfandel, and taste through them. And what is so interesting is you'll notice you'll get sweetness, okay, with the Riesling. The Chablis will have an absence of any type of sweetness. Then when you get to that red wine, your brain is going to want to say this is sweetness, but oh no, this is ripeness. And then go back to that off-dry Riesling for actual sweetness. And something to be aware of, and it'll underscore it when you do this tasting. You are not smelling sweetness. When we're talking about wine, you're smelling ripeness. So when you smell that Riesling is very aromatic. You'll get a lot of fruit aromas. You'll get orchard fruit and citrus. You might get melon and tropical fruit. Those can be very ripe, but they are not sweet. Similarly, that Zinfandel is going to be loaded, oodles of fruit, just tons of ripe fruit. But don't say that it smells sweet, because sweetness is something you perceive on the tongue. So just a little tip. But I think if you get a handle on this as a wine student, it is going to take you so very far. It's really fundamental.
It is. Yeah. Just knowing these differences is key. I think the next one that I would recommend people focus on is acidity, which is like along with alcohol and sugar, it's actually the building block of wine. So people don't even think about this, but if you do not have acidity, you don't have fruit flavors, because actually every fruit flavor you ever had, every like you think about how an apple tastes, you think about how grapefruit tastes. They're all based on specific acids. Yeah, like grapefruit tastes like that because it's mostly citric acid. Apple tastes like how an apple tastes because it's malic acid. It's actually an acid that is that tastes like apples. But if you even drink it, like you ever have apple cider vinegar, right? What does that taste like? It tastes like freaking apples. Why? Because that's a lot of malic acid there. And you can even do this at home. You can actually get malic acid and just put it in water. It tastes apples. If you add some sugar to it, then it tastes like apple juice. And that's what actually oftentimes like cheap lemonade is. Like if you get that, have you ever gotten the gas station lemonade?
I love gas station lemonade.
Right. Oh. So let me tell you what that actually is. There are no lemons there, or if there are, they're a fleeting entity that's passed through. They use citric acid and sugar and water to replicate the taste of lemons. And if you ever look at like your candy, like your Lifesavers or anything, you'll actually turn it over and you'll say, oh, citric acid. Oh, and also sometimes malic acid as well to give you these fruit flavors. Now, these are building blocks of wine too. Like they have to be. So like you've ever had a Chardonnay that tastes like apples, or a Sauvignon Blanc that tastes like grapefruits, and, or even like a Riesling that might taste like citrus. Like these are actually the acids. But there's one important one. It's the building block of all wines, and that's tartaric acid. And tartaric acid is unique in wine. Now you don't see in any other fruit. It's actually the acid that makes wine taste like wine and smell like wine. It will taste like wine. And it's interesting because if I add tartaric acid to anything, it tastes like wine. And one of the reasons why non-wine drinkers don't tend to like wine is because of tartaric acid. It's also the acid. I talk a lot about this in my ancient winemaking advanced program, because tartaric acid is most likely the reason why we actually started drinking wine. It was because it actually kills all known, or like 99.9% of all foodborne bacteria, including E. coli, but it also has a very long half-life. And so that's why wines can age so long. If they have high levels of tartaric acid, your wines will age well. But also it just gives you that wonderful tart taste, hence tartaric acid. So you either have high, medium, or low levels of acid. So a low level of acid tastes like low level acid fruits, like a fig or like candied lemons. But a medium level tends to taste like fresh apples or fresh fruit. So sometimes like a fresh, apricot, or even fresh strawberries or fresh blueberries.
And high acidity expresses itself as underripe fruit.
Yes. High acid is always tart. It's just tart, tart, tart. Medium acid is always going to taste fresh, like alive. It's like everything's in balance. Where low acid, things just taste like they're jammy, or like raisins, or even alcohol. It actually might taste sweet. So if you don't have enough acid, actually it'll taste really sweet. And that'll be a perceived sweetness, not actual sweetness, but perceived sweetness.
So to play with acidity, this is really a good tool. Get yourself a Sauvignon Blanc. New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is the old standby. Taste it next to a Chardonnay and try and find a Chardonnay that is unoaked because of what we talked about earlier, that perceived sweetness of baking spices from oak aging can actually interfere with your perception of acidity. But you'll notice right away when you taste those two side by side, your New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is going to have underripe fruit characteristics. As soon as you get that underripe fruit character, that's high acid. Your Chardonnay is going to come across as something that's like ripe or even overripe. And that is what we talk about when we talk about low or medium acidity.
Absolutely. And I guess if you want to skirt that whole oak and Chardonnay thing, maybe like a Marsanne or Roussanne. Marsanne is never high acid.
Okay, Marsanne or Roussanne. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Not Viognier.
Viognier is so expensive, and they tend to oak it. They do tend to make it fancy.
Yes, that's a very good.
Or just like a Coteron Blanc,
Yeah.
throw that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tend to recommend ones that are less expensive because they're less likely to be oaked. So then the next thing for training your palate or understanding your palate is actually bitterness. We've all had that. We had a glass of wine and you're like, your tongue just dries out and all you taste is bitterness. And you're like, oh my God. Well, that's tannins. Now, I like to point out, this a lot of somms get this wrong. A lot of people in wine get this wrong. It's not just tannins. Because regular old tannins are in seeds anywhere. No, what we have in wine are condensed tannins. These are tannins that are, during fermentation, are ripped apart and recombined with your anthocyanins, your pigments, from the skins. So this combination makes this much more bitter, much more complex bitterness, but also that's why red wines stay red. It's a permanent, fixed pigment as well. Otherwise, reds would turn gray and orange by the time they're a year old. So these tannins are actually combining and adhering to the protein in your mouth. So you have some wines that are very low tannins, some that are medium level tannins, some that are very high tannins. But as a winemaker, I can control this. So like, for instance, if I actually ferment a wine very quickly with skin contact, but then remove those skins, well, what I have is a rosé. So a very, very light, almost no tannins, almost no pigment either. But if I let my skins and seeds sit before fermentation, during fermentation, and then maybe even a week after fermentation, this is going to be incredibly bitter.
So if you want to apply these principles at home, get a sensory experience of what Keith is talking about, go ahead and grab yourself a low tannin wine like a Pinot Noir. A Gamay would work also.
Even better, yeah. Yeah,
Gamay
absolutely.
would be even better. And then taste that alongside a Tannat, perhaps, which is actually named for high tannins. You could also grab a Nebbiolo, which is always high in tannins, and have the Gamay or Pinot Noir first, and then have the high tannin wine. And you'll notice immediately the difference in sensations. The first wines will taste smooth, almost silky. The second wines will be grippy and bitter and astringent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it'll really drill home for you. And I do want to say at this point, by the time you get to this exercise, many, many smart people who are new to wine start wanting to come up with their own algorithms.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Start wanting to think, well, this smells like this to me, so it means this. Put all of that aside. Don't come up with your own little cheats and algorithms. Stick with the process. Because if there was an easy way, if there were hacks and lines you could draw, we would draw them for you. Believe me.
Oh, yeah.
But take things step by step. So first build on your perception of sweetness, then work up to acidity, then move to tannin. And tannin by far is the most confusing because it sounds straightforward, but when you get into high acid wines with high tannins, it can really mess with your perception. So just build it slowly and it'll serve you so much better in the long run.
Because these things are working in tandem. You have your sweetness or alcohol and your acid and tannins, they all actually play off each other. And because wine is so highfalutin that people oftentimes don't use their common sense And so, for instance, if I was actually in my office right now, I could pull out my 10 pounds of tartaric acid that I have it's actually my winemaking lab. You could open that up. It smells like nothing. I have citric acid too. Smells like nothing. They have no smell. I also could pull out my 5-pound bag of enological tannins and open that up. That doesn't smell like anything.
Understanding your own palate is definitely key to this. And
Yeah.
I think you were going to mention as we wrap up, this is just a small sliver
Oh, yes.
of what we teach people. And a big part of the journey of the L2 class, or the foundation program, as we used to call it, is really understanding your own palate and how sensitive you as a taster are to certain elements in wine. And one thing that, if you want to take your tasting to the next level, to find out at home how sensitive a taster you are.
Yes.
Now, sensitive tasters, they used to be called super tasters. That's kind of gone by the wayside. It kind of implied a superpower. It's not a superpower. It's something that is determined by genetics and culture to some extent. And it doesn't mean you're a great taster. It just means that you taste things more intensely than the rest of the population. So about 20 to 25% or so of folks out there are sensitive tasters. Both Keith and myself fall on that scale. And there is a way to find out at home if you are a sensitive taster. There's something called a prop test, PROP. These are things you can order online. They're just strips of paper, and you place them on your tongue. If you are a sensitive taster, you will want to get that thing off of your tongue so fast. If you're what we call a tolerant taster, which is also about 20 or so % of the population, it won't taste like anything. And then the majority of people will get a little bit of an unpleasant sensation, but it's not overwhelming. That's the majority of people. So you have some sensitivity, but not extreme. So knowing where you fall on that scale is especially helpful, because if you are a sensitive taster, when it comes to tannin perception, bitterness, it's going to be amplified for you. So you're always going to have to take that into account. It's like the thumb on the scale. Every time you call a wine level for tannins, you're going to need to keep that in mind, that you are more sensitive than most people.
So when I do this test in class, I break it down like this. It's the fuck scale. Now, so if you taste it and you are a sensitive taster or super taster, you'll taste this, you go, fuck, this is so nasty. You'll think, fuck. Now, if you're on the middle of the spectrum, right? Here's another spectrum you're on. Congratulations. You'll be like, fuck, man, fuck that. And then if you taste nothing, if you're a tolerant taster, you're like, what the fuck? There's nothing there. What the fuck? So yeah, it's one of the 3 fucks.
I love that, Keith. I really wanted you to get some fucks into this.
I know.
It's been devoid.
I know. I've been trying really hard, because in class, I mean, it's a total fuck fest in class. I mean, yeah, I love that we did this. I'm going to say, like, if you really enjoy this, this is a small part of the L2 sommelier program. And so if you like this, go for it. Take it. If you're near Philly, by all means, take it with me. You're going to get the OG version of it. The National Wine School does offer it online. It's fantastic. You can find them at wineschool.us.
Folks, there is a video of our podcast available on our YouTube channel, Wine School USA. And folks, if you enjoy this, we do so enjoy making these for you. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell a friend, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely, folks. Cheers.